So, I,
Uh, yeah, we got the vibe on deck, bro. Four dope brothers talking sports, so let's go. If you could just imagine some dudes into music get together to talk trash about whose teams is losing. So here we go. Deep Turner, John Lane, Trey Illy, J Hill, the MVP, according to his theory. So now what? They got their mics and gizmos. Podcast rapper for DC, what it is, Mo. Yeah.
Welcome to Sports and Things, a weekly podcast where we go in depth on sports and music topics of the week. Featuring John Lane, Trey Ely, Jay Hill, and host Dennis Turner.
okay. And welcome to Sports and Things, everybody. This is. I thought we were going to a video.
Caught you off guard, yeah.
Yeah. This is the sports podcast where we are musicians who love to talk sports and we talk music and everything else above.
And
I'm
thanks.
your host, Dennis Turner. With me, I have John Lane and Trey Ely. We're waiting on Jay Hill, who's running a little late. But thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to wait for some people to come into the room, but I'm just going to explain to you guys what we're doing today because this is a special edition of Sports and Things and why we're doing it. So in 2006, we lost the great JDilla Yancey, and we decided as Sports and Things to do a show to pay homage and tribute to the life and music of JDilla.
And it's Dilla week.
It's Dilla week for sure. And
Hey,
we have
look at
some
this.
special guests. And the first special guest that we have, the most important guest that we have on this day,
The
is
most important.
Mrs. Yancey, aka Modux. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for having me.
We really do appreciate it. So yeah, we're gonna have a panel. We this is day 2 of the panel, and we have an array of artists that were a part of the DC Loves Dilla show that was started by John Lane, Munch, and DJ Rod. So let me introduce the panel, and then we can get going on these questions. We have Camber. Say what up, Camber.
What up? Peace.
Copious
Aaron
amounts.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Slim Cat.
Peace.
What up, Slim?
And the host of DC Loves Dilla, Grab Lover.
What up, Grab?
Love, y'all. What up, family? What up, Slim?
And I'm seeing at the bottom of my screen the talented Wes Felton.
Yeah, Dub.
Hello, y'all. How y'all doing?
All right.
Sweet.
All right.
So I'm going to hand it over to Trey. Trey's going to be the moderator as he was yesterday for the show, and he's going to just get us through this 2-hour extravaganza. Trey, you have it.
Thank you, Pastor Turner. I appreciate that.
You're the
We're
guest
going to
pastor.
get into the show. For those who tuned in last night, thank you for tuning in both nights. But I also need you to bear with us. We might have to repeat a few things. Just want to kind of let you guys know, Sports and Things, like Dennis said, we're a sports podcast that's created by musicians. We are musicians
For
at
us, by
heart.
us.
So even though we love sports and for us, by us, and we typically talk about sports for most of our podcasts and just, do a segment on entertainment and music as well.
Just the first 2 hours.
Yeah,
Right.
Jesus, Lord. So, even though we do that, what we are doing today is a special episode, and it is dedicated to music, and it's dedicated to your producer's favorite producer, and your favorite
Absolutely.
producer's favorite producer. There's a lot of producers. So there's a lot of producers talking about a producer who is the producer of producers. So anyway, I would like to thank our guests for coming out and joining us. And also just want to kind of let you know how we operate. This is for our panelists too. This is kind of loose and free. We have a good time. We're not really stiff and
We join on each other here and
we
there.
just kind of just flow with it. Yes, we definitely join on each other. And like I said, in the heart, we are musicians, and our resident drummer actually keeps time for us. And I think that's pretty cool. So if you see me, and this is to the panelists, if I have to move you along, please don't feel insulted. It's not personal. but we got a whole show to do in a little bit of time, and it's probably John telling me to move you along anyway. So if I cut you off, cut John out, not me.
We need a Sandman from Apollo Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I'm just the messenger. If something bad happens, it was either Mario or John that told me to do it.
What up, J Hill?
That's the thing.
J Hill made it.
Evil.
Oh, Jay Hill's in the house. In the
Hey,
capital
Flipstar made it.
What's up, brother?
Flipstar made it.
There you go.
People,
All
my
right.
dudes.
So we've done enough formalities, so let's get into the questions.
Yeah.
So the first segment is origins, like we did last night. So first person that I want to talk to is our most special guest. We have Miss Yancey here, my Dukes, and we're honored. I'm honored to have you. This is the first time I'm meeting you, so I'm definitely honored to be able to ask you some questions. So first question I want to ask is, what was your expectation going into the different tributes that you participated in? Going into them, what was your expectations?
Okay. I never really had any great expectations because of the love and the camaraderie of every single tribute. I knew that it was like when you enter any Dilla event, it was so much love. I think a lot of things that one might have complained about was like not there. It was always real, and everyone performed to their very best, and everybody had their act together. You know, it was like no stuff. It was just good. It was superb, and especially the DC Love Dilla. I look forward to that so. That was like the one thing that I knew that I was going to miss. I didn't care what happened anywhere else. I was going there. That was one flight I was going to make. And that's a real thing. I look forward to it, and I just felt like it was a part of who I was. I was embraced with love, and it was not some just seasonal thing. It was truly love, and I knew that the comments that were given to me and the things that they said about my son was true from individuals. And they were very patient and seemed to be concerned about how I felt and not to overwhelm me with anything. But I know when somebody's giving their very best and it's for the right reason, you just feel it. And I just got it every single time. And each year it just grew and was bigger and bigger. How could I expect anything? It was like humongous from day one. But each year, I didn't know what else to expect. You know, even if it had been the same as the year before, but each year it was like more grand, you know, and mind blowing. It was mind blowing because remember, even his hometown didn't participate or acknowledge him for many years. Wow. But DC held him up. And I'm going to say this for other entertainers that I know. And I've watched people in the entertainment world for many, many years before Dilla. And to be someone that went to DC to perform, that was off the chain. That was it. You were somebody. If you were going there, then you already was already made, and you know, you were on your way. Because you didn't get the camaraderie or the attention or the love in your own hometown. But DC was a different platform. You could be about your business as long as you brought your stuff. It was there, you know, and it was an audience for everybody, and they showed love. They weren't afraid. It wasn't hating on each other. It was just like different. It was true love for the arts, and you know when somebody really has it for the arts, you know it because you got some of everything there. That's all I can say. And that's why I love DC so much. And that's why I was so quick to leave the D and move to DC.
Right. Oh my God, man.
Well, that's you know that's heartwarming and beautiful to hear. And
so good night, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we need to hear. Thank you for a wonderful podcast.
Been a pleasure.
Wow.
We said to put you first. We should have saved you for last. Yeah. And so like I was saying, this is typically a sports podcast, and that's a crazy thing about this town. I think maybe we should talk about music more than we talk about sports, because when we talk about sports, everything is sad. It's sad.
It's a very melancholy feeling.
Yeah, Can you believe it? They call me Angry Trey. This beautiful smiling face here. They call me angry because we talk about sports. Ain't nothing to be happy about here.
That's because we talk about the Wizards and the football team.
That's
we
because
we
rarely
talk about the Capitals, and we rarely talk about the Nationals who won world championships.
I talk about the Nationals.
Yeah, so do I, but the other two guys don't.
We don't talk baseball. Sorry.
Hockey and baseball fans. Anyway.
And we start with those segments too. We should end with those segments. Anyway, go ahead, Trey. You got it, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. Grab, did you want to weigh in on your expectations for the tributes when you came on?
When the first one I did, I was very nervous in performing, but I think what got me looked at as a host for the following shows was that when I told my story of how I met Dilla and how we went to Detroit and all of that other stuff, and
can you tell that story, because that's an amazing story.
Hospitality. So we Pete here's the tape with Tip. Tip brings the tape around. I wasn't around for that party. Here's the tape. He goes crazy. Who's this kid?
Pete Rock.
He's like, yo, JDilla. Yes, Pete Rock. So somehow or another, he gets his number and he calls him. And from what Pete told me, his dad, rest in peace, answered the phone. And he was like, Pete told him who he was. He's like, oh, you the guy he's going crazy over. Hold on, man. And he gave him a call.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So once they connected, I guess he asked him about doing a song. So we went out there to Detroit, and when we got to, we flew out there with Pete. We got out to the airport. We waiting, and all of a sudden this Lexus Land pulls up, and on the plate it says Uma. I was like, that's him, yo. So when we walk over to the truck, he opens the window, and Main Ingredient is just blasting out the truck.
Wow.
Pete Rock Feel Smooth Main Ingredient blasting out the truck.
Talk about humbleness,
big Kool-Aid smile on his face, like, what up, though? What up, though? He's like, yo, what up, yo? You know what I mean? And it was just love, man. It was just love from there. You know what I mean? And we had to. He was like, as we got in the truck, he's playing Main Ingredient. Pete was like, man, nah, I heard that enough, man. What's up with your stuff? So that's when he played us like Find a Way instrumental. He played We Be Them and Players. Yeah, and Players. This was like right before, I think only Fantastic was out at that time. So
yeah,
we heard it early. So
man, your energy, Grab, your energy was just always like what the people needed, because we always had a set group of people that either didn't know why they were there or they knew why they were there. But you brought everybody together. Like anytime you hit the stage, it was like, all right, y'all don't know why y'all here, do you? Hold on.
right. We here to represent Dilla family. Here to show love to JDilla, straight up and down. Man. And we're gonna show y'all how we do it.
And what was great? All day, What was great about Grap was after like halfway through the first show that he hosted, we generally had a script for him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But Grap flew off the cuff because the crowd was not into it at all. Yeah. And he was like, man, he just threw the script away and he threw a curveball and he just woke the crowd up. And that's when I knew that Grap needed to be the host.
All he had to do was know who was next. Like, who's next?
That's it. That's all he needed to know was who was next. And he took care of the rest.
Thank you.
Anyway, sorry to get off topic, Trey.
Nah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And it really got comfortable when you started dancing.
hey, remember you're the timekeeper. So yeah, cool. So next question is for John. And I think I'm gonna have Professor Aaron weigh in on this too. Speaking of that, I don't believe we formally met before, but so this might be the first time. But I'm actually a huge Aaron Broadus fan. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I first heard Aaron when he played with Kirk Whalum on Gospel According to Jazz Chapter 3. I was there, and he introduced him, and I'm like, nah, I don't know if I can. put together the couple degrees of separation. But I thought about it. I'm like, he's got a guy from here. I probably know somebody who knows him. And smallest world ever. Some years later, it's like my boy John is like best friends with him and stuff, and I'm like, wow,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. If you play music in this town, you know somebody who at least knows the person.
Easily.
If you don't know,
easily. It's a very close knit family.
Yeah,
it is.
Nice.
Yeah. So, with that being said, as a jazz major and a musician, can you kind of talk about what it was that attracted you to JDilla and his music? So, John, you go ahead, and then Aaron after John.
So, in college, I went to Aaron and I both went to George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, and they didn't have a jazz major there, but we were both severely attracted to jazz music, and that was really when I started to hone my craft in jazz music. But I was still in love with hip hop, and by the time I got into college, the groups that I was listening to were like Public Enemy and Gang Starr. And those groups were starting to filter into the underground. I talked about this a little bit last night.
Can I just interject that you're really old?
Yes, you can.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't take long.
Gang Starr and Public Enemy. That was that like middle school?
16 minutes in.
Anyway,
it was high school.
That's pretty good. That was your middle school.
It was high school.
You know what I'm saying?
Anyway.
Your middle school, Trey.
Anyway, let me adjust my wheelchair here. So, I was still in love with hip hop, and when I first heard "Running," which I believe was like 94, 95, that had a huge impact because I was hearing the type of hip hop that I missed hearing on mainstream radio. And not that I wasn't a fan of Biggie or Tupac or anything like that, but that type of hip hop that was non-boom bapish, like I just needed to hear those type of drums, and I needed to hear like that Brazilian guitar, like the chords. That's what a jazz musician is attracted to. So hearing that style of hip hop woke me up, and I needed to know who that was. So I was going back to old Far Side records and trying to figure out if the dude who produced Passing Me By was doing it. And then I look on the back of the Far Side record, and it's a dude named JD. I'm like, I don't know who this dude is, but I gotta study this dude a lot more. And then the next thing I hear, I'm on OKPlayer.com, and Questlove gave his rare 5 Afro picks on Fantastic Volume 2. And he said, if you love the Roots, if you love Common, if you love D'Angelo, he said, I guarantee, and I will bet all the money in the world that you will fall in love with this album. And the next day I went out and bought Fantastic Volume 2, and I swear to God, I listened to that album front to back every day for 5 months. Like the girl I was dating was practically sick and tired of hearing Slum Village, because that's all that I played, because it literally changed my life. Because I love listening to jazz music, but my heart was so deep into hip hop, and I was missing that element of hip hop so much that it just attracted me. It really, it's what made me want to start making beats. And it actually made me change how I play drums too, because Dilla taught drummers that you don't have to be perfect when you're playing, and you don't have to be perfect when you're producing. It's all about the feel. And he mastered the art of feel on a freaking MPC of all things. Like, tell me any other producer that can master the swing and feel like Dilla. So that was his impact on me during my college years.
Yeah, that's dope. And I agree. I got into how do I answer this question? I didn't get into his music later. I got into him as a producer later. Like I was like, oh, that was him? That's the guy? We talked about that yesterday. So coming from the instrumental music and jazz and all that stuff route, I was like, wow, there is like a swing and a feel that's like kind of organic in this music. This is really cool. Like this, I hear stuff that my head naturally just starts bobbing to, and I say that as somebody who grew up listening to hip hop, but also somebody who grew up listening to a lot of jazz and fusion and all that other stuff.
It's
So,
just that real live band interaction that he was able to emulate. It's surreal. Anyway, Aaron, my bad.
Aaron, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got to know Dilla through John mainly. He's the one that introduced me to Dilla because he would come over and produce and he would bring all of his Dilla tracks with him. And so I would hear this at my place, and I'm like, man, who's this cat? So one of the first tunes besides Running, there's Tainted that I liked, and Fall in Love, and then the way John and I do things sometimes, the song Players, it sings Claire. Well, anyone that we knew with the name Claire, we never said their name. We'd always sing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Including students. Claire.
Yep.
Everywhere. And, it was just, and I had to sit there and listen because it was so different. And I was like, this is cool because it was never, exactly on the beat. It was so far. Not, you can say so far behind, not so far behind, but it's
musicians speak so far behind.
right. So what he did with that, it was just even when I think about it, this is what I do, and so it was very neat. And then running those not running those rehearsals, but setting up for those rehearsals and meeting guys from Slum Village and Music Soul Child. Having them come into Georgetown, and I was able to provide a rehearsal space for the rehearsals.
Use a man with the key.
Well, yeah, I also had the sound system, and so that was a little intimidating, to be running sound for these guys and to make sure that they could hear.
By the way, it does bear mentioning that it's the reason that space, that rehearsal space at Georgetown University, was because of Aaron. Aaron used to run the pep band and the jazz band there. And we started, the first rehearsal we ever had was at Howard University. When Aaron and I were getting our graduate degrees. But when we graduated, we couldn't use that space anymore. And Aaron was like, well, I'm working at Georgetown, man. Just come through. So, we owe it to Aaron. And of course, Aaron had all the studio equipment. I had none. So I would just go over to his house and I would bring all of the, I'm sorry, Mrs. Yancey, but I was one of the ones that downloaded Dilla's beats off LimeWire. But I would bring them to Aaron's house and I would just play his beats for everybody. Because
I didn't have to buy anything. I didn't have to buy anything because he was using my computer and some of his stuff ended up on my stuff. So
it's just a friendly.
Somebody got to spread the word.
Right,
exactly. There you go.
But it was tremendously exciting, especially to see how much it grew and how many people were into it and how much love from the community for JDilla. And then, the icing on the cake really is just, a few years ago when visiting the African American Museum to see his MPC there, I just kind of stood there and looked at it, which goes to, it goes to show you he was himself. He was just him. He wasn't imitating anybody. He had his own thing. And I think that's what it's really about when it comes to all of us. We just need to do our own thing.
Dope. Yeah, it's very cool. Very
Love
cool.
that.
Yes.
All right. So one more question. And I think this question I'm asking to a couple guys, but this will probably wrap up our segment. But starting with Slim Cat, where you at? Can you briefly talk about the rehearsals and your experience kind of learning the music, preparing for the shows?
It was sort of easy to me because I've been a student of Dilla since '96. So it was pretty much me and John Lane going back and forth, like, how can we make it sound just as organic, or how can we make it sound, how we can make the feel just just as organic as it was when we listened to the beats. So
Yeah.
I just took time to incorporate like the sounds that I had in the MPC and add it to the band. The band, I mean, I feel like during the rehearsals, I just feel like we just got right into it. Like it was just like there was no talking. We just tried to figure out like the segues and I mean everything was just pretty cool. We just pretty much we were just off the feel, off the vibe, and it went really well. I mean,
Yeah, Slim.
How many we had? We had like 10 of them, right? 10, 12.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the few times it was, the rehearsals were, nobody was about themselves. Everyone was about the music.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Slim Cat is responsible for showing me all of the sources that Dilla used for his samples. Like, this was before YouTube, and I would hit him up. I'm like, dog, like, what did he use for players? He's like, oh, I got that at home. He's like, that's Singers Unlimited.
I got that in my house.
Exactly.
In my house.
I'm like, man, this you want to talk about somebody that studies Dilla? Slim Cat studies Dilla for real. So I definitely appreciate it.
Nice.
One of the first questions I had for Ma Dukes was like, how did they take the time to organize his records? And so she gave me the gems. And I've been doing like, I think since last year, I think I got everything organized to the point where
okay, 10 years later,
I go right to where I need to go.
See, that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah,
straight from Mama Dukes.
Only took 20 plus years.
Listen. When we went to the basement in Detroit. When he took us down there, I literally asked him. I was like, "Yo, you got that Janet Jackson remix, the one you did, the JD's thing?" He's like, "Hold up." He's like, "Here, right here, boom!" And I put it on tape right there in the basement. Yo, he was like a file cabinet, man. He went right to the record, went right to the record, and
he knew where everything was, man. Like, wow. He knew where everything was. He didn't have no labels. He could just immediately go to, like, I would love to be a fly on the wall when he made Reminisce, because that record was like half a dozen records, and I could just see him now. Oh yeah, it was this one. Walk over here, it was this one. It was this. Like, I bet he could just find them off the cuff in like 5 seconds, man. It's crazy.
Nice. Hey, so Camber, why don't you weigh in on your experience preparing for the shows?
Coming in, watching these guys get ready to get busy, for an artist like myself being young in the DC scene, it was nerve-wracking. I was with all these talented musicians, and I'm like, how am I going to pull off a Dilla verse? But everybody was so welcoming and so warming, and it really was a family. And it was like, yo, as long as you came prepared, you came in, you did your piece. If John Lane gave you the thumbs up, then you got to go. That's how it was for me. And I just remember even being in the car in front of the clubs, listening to the songs over and over, knowing that I know it, but it's like, I got to go in front of all these people and perform this Dilla verse. Like, the last thing I want to do is mess it up. But rehearsal was awesome. I remember being at rehearsal, and it was almost like being at the show, because you got to see the ins and outs and how John Lane would say, "Oh no, we need this right here. The kick hits here, and then the bass comes in," or they just dissected it so great. I got to be a fly on the wall in rehearsal, so I'll never take that for granted. It was awesome.
Dope. All right, thank you, Camber.
Yeah, man.
So we're getting ready to take our first break. This is bringing this segment to a close. In the next segment, we're going to get to hear from our panelists some more, and we're going to get to hear from my man Wes Felton as well. We're going to get him in the mix too. So it's a break for us, but for you guys in the audience, it is not a break. You guys are going to get to see some footage, listen to some music, so you guys can't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey, man, y'all look beautiful, man. God damn, it's packed in here.
Hands in the sky one time, y'all.
Yo, it's right little in a place to be. We came putting on sitting on PJD. Don't let me see you touch the sky. Let me see you wave your hands up high.
Taste the paper, blazing up in this bitch. We raise the stakes up a little bit and shut shit down. Told you the bullshit is over. Put your hands up, that's what you need to do. Plus niggas got game like on TS2. It's Kangaroo off and here about to set it. Things look short, you hear about to let it go.
Back and forth like a big old ass. I'm a back on course, that's a big old ass. Got me up in this mother. I am in this motherfucker.
It's Taser, LLA, the man, the myth, the plan is to get the grants. It's all good when I get that. It's that clouded. Niggas thinking they hot, but it's not this. It's stay hard, looking for holes. It's ones that's looking at hard, I'm looking for those. So they can shake their ass for us. Told y'all and McNasty trust.
Yo, we got vision, we the bloods, we go with the fall guy. Y'all leaders nuts, the players is out here doing the thing. I told y'all what McNasty brain.
It's gangsta, we all chase the thriller. Bet your ass that it's not the king. We real ghetto with the filth. Flawn, filth. Hitting them hard with the bars that I'm spitting.
It's Crazy J, you know what it is. Rocking over tracks, my nigga jam in. Cause we are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
It's Crazy Dilla, chase the paper, blazing up in this bitch. We'll raise up the stakes.
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
It's Frank Tank and JDZ collabing with Mad Lib.
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
And we get sturdy like we bread and crispy. Get away your pride, we get busy with the plan. Plan is bad, living. JDilla, Frank, and I'm at it again. And we got those chickens, plus the flows is sick. And known for the flipping, hoes blow the dick when I hop. Dollars hop. Hopping in and out of 2,000 plus candies and blazing the end zone. Bringing that booming system cheap. Volume beats, tall and deep. Crawling, we ballin'. Told y'all before not to play me out. The game getting cake and rockin' shades. Make a nigga there. B-10s, beating, taking the game like this. See, nigga,
whack niggas, don't take to the back. Cause we all up in here, don't know how to react.
Yo, we are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
All ladies, go straight to the front. Cause we real paralytic. You know what?
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker. And we need everybody to say this shit one time. We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker. One more time, JC. One more time. Let's go. We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker. Peace. stop this pride, cause I can't outgo all this passing me by. Happy, like a chicken chaser, I feel like a horse. She was kind of like a dog, thinking I was like a man. Damn, she's looking to the downside. He was a fruity, too. I ain't no fool. He told me took your little words on the side of the cool. You wanna play?
All right.
Oh man, I was liking that.
To be a better man.
Hard stop.
Wow.
Wow.
Back by the player.
Jay Hill is.
Yo, Cambridge, y'all absolutely
Jay Hill's
murdered.
turned up.
Man.
I'll tell you
Man.
that was a lot more fun than the first time I did McNasty Phil.
What?
Well, you had help this time. Didn't you have to do it the
Yo,
first
he
time you
killed
did
it at
McNasty
the
Phil? You
cat,
did it by yourself, right?
Yeah, it was solo.
Yeah.
You talking
Yeah.
about we
Killed
talked
it,
about
though.
nervous before. That was real nervous. I remember getting off stage and stylists grabbing me and like shaking me. I thought I did something wrong. He was like, McNasty Filth, I can't believe you just did that. And I was like, neither can I.
Let me breathe.
One of the greatest
Out of
things
body
about that.
experience. You did your thing,
One
though.
of the
brother.
greatest things about that song is that you don't notice it. Actually, Brock, who was the guitar player and the co-sampler in that song during the show, he reminded me that Dilla had like this Madlib had this shaker sound, and he would mimic in the hook whatever Dilla was rapping. So it's Frank Dank Dilla, chase the paper, blaze him up in this bitch that race this thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So he matched whatever Dilla was saying. Like those two, good Lord, can you imagine what both of those would be doing like right now?
Yeah, man.
That's sick.
Just insane.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Some ill live album.
Mm.
Yeah.
exactly. All right. Sorry, take it over, Trey.
Hey, nothing wrong with a little reminiscence. So I got another question for my Dukes here.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. This is
Okay.
a tough one. So, question here is which DC Loves Dilla local performer or headliner was your favorite and why?
Ha.
Ooh. Yeah, that's nasty. You know, I don't play favorite. Everybody already knows that the MC is my very best. And it's just one. There is none above him, and that's Grap. Grap Love is it.
There we go.
All right.
But you know,
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
I love all the performers. I can't say that I love one more than the other because I went home just like dreaming and hearing and seeing, and I went back to the D just like in a dream, in a cloud, and I enjoyed like the whole show. That's why I couldn't stay away. You know, I mean, that's what helped make me an old hip hop head. You know, y'all took me from classic to hip hop. I was like, I don't think I bought an opera record since then. You know, like I turned hip hop. You turned DC changed my life.
Oh man.
Oh man, that's wonderful.
And that's on the
Minutes
real.
like-
You see, that's where I got my husband from.
There we go. Shout out to Tony Smith.
Hey, you see,
Glad to be a part.
you see,
man.
got
Glad
what's
to be a
going
part.
on, you know. Top of the line, cream of the crop. That's where it's at.
There's no life to it.
Chocolate City is
We
not
still
dead
Chocolate
as long as
City.
you got it.
Yeah. I love
Hey,
it.
you know, I know
Love
it
this
changed
place.
before I left, but that's where it's at. You know?
Wow.
And that's how we know we're not talking about sports.
Amazing.
Can
We're
nobody
not
take
talking
that
about
away?
sports tonight.
Exactly. Hey, it's a sport. It's a sport of love.
Yeah,
That's very true.
Nice, nice.
So my Dukes, you know,
Yes.
you know that some things are implied. If DC loves Dilla, then DC loves my Dukes. So we just want to let you
Oh,
know
well,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
You know what?
doubt.
DC showed that love, and I felt good. I didn't worry about it. I told my family, well, you got to come to DC. And I mean, I invited them, and I would still be there had I not, decided, to move to the warmer climate because my
Nothing
health
wrong
was
with
getting
that.
better. You know,
But
that
how-
weather,
yeah.
that winter weather was like biting, you know.
Oh, we know that.
It's cold
Yeah,
out
we're
here.
going through it right now.
It's biting right now.
I'm sitting here
I'm
with the heat
sweating
blasting.
bullets. I think I can handle the sweat.
Look,
sweat
we
bullets,
jealous.
you know.
Jealous of it.
Right.
I think I like 80-degree weather, 89. Year round.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you
Yeah.
on that. All right, so the next person I want to ask is Mr. Wes Felton. But Wes, before you answer, I just want to let you know that you cannot say yourself.
Can't say yourself. I knew
if you do, let me explain something to you.
Wow, come on, man.
The last person who did that on this podcast hasn't been back since.
What's the
That's
question?
very true.
And they
Dennis
blame
doesn't
me
play
for
that.
We're not going to say his name.
That's the question.
Don't say. You know who it is, Dub. Don't say his name.
Wait, well, why you blame me?
Oh, I know who it is.
Yeah, don't say his name.
All of us, but I'm still going to blame you because
who was your
Dennis
favorite?
just casually just
No,
doesn't
don't
bring
say
it up
it.
anymore.
Please do not say his name.
I don't bring it up.
Wes, who was your favorite? Who was your favorite?
favorite what?
Your favorite
Your
performer?
favorite DC Loves Dilla performer.
You can't say yourself, man.
You can't say yourself.
Nah. I think we'll see. Real quick, first of all, just to piggyback off of my Dukes. So I actually performed in the actual first JDilla tribute ever, which was at SOB's in New York City.
That's true. That and Daru Jones was on that.
And Robert Glasper was the keyboardist. Daru Jones was the drummer.
Yep.
It was me, Pharoah Munch, Bilal. I want to say Frank and Dank might have been there, and a couple of other people. But let me just attest. Let me just say to her, it was light years. What DC Loves Dilla was doing was light years ahead of what we did at SOBs. Like it wasn't. But also, I think because it had just happened, it was something where literally folks just called people up. Cats knew that I was a Dilla fan even back then, and so I guess they were like, "Well, let's call him in," and then they just reached out. But my favorite performance, it was definitely Bilal. The reason why is because I believe that for me, whenever Bilal would perform, reminisce. I think what was beautiful about it was him being able to tell the actual story. Like, I'm a fan of the idea of making art that's not literal sometimes. And what Bilal not only did, singing that song incredibly as he does every time, but what he also did was he broke down to you like the process of making the record and how literally in the words he's describing it. He's describing walking, coming in through this door, he talks about how he was describing, in the midst of hallways and sliding doors, missing links, a very, very obscure, right? Yeah, he was describing Dilla grabbing all those little bits and pieces.
Missing links are very obscure.
Exactly.
Yes.
Let's go.
So it's important. It's important that people understand that what made Dilla powerful, but also what made him be able to, I think why he resonates with certain types of artists is because he it's like you guys say, he's behind almost. It's almost like you kind of have to like take the risk of like not being afraid to be one step behind in order to be ahead of everybody. A lot of times people, when they think of wolves, they think of wolves as these aggressive folks, aggressive animals. But what people don't understand is that the leader of the pack is in the back when wolves lead.
Right.
And JDilla, for me, was like one of those. And I always felt like Bilal Oliver was one of those type of artists as well, where the world or the scene might project him as one thing, but when it comes to his own identity and self as an artist, he dictated his method. So, to be able to see stuff like that, it was great, so definitely whenever Bilal performed that, it was dope. And I wouldn't say mine was my favorite, but I will say I really enjoyed doing Diamonds. Like
that was dope.
That's a hard joint.
That was hard, yeah. That was at Black Cat.
Yeah, it was at the Black Cat.
Yeah, it was at Black Cat.
I think I might have borrowed somebody's jewelry.
Yeah, you did.
And,
I remember that. We had to buy something there too.
No, that was a different one. That was a different one. I got Tobias up there when I did
That was at the Howard Theater.
the comedy.
Oh,
All
it was at
right.
the
Long as this phone
Tobias was at the Fillmore.
Oh yeah, the Fillmore joint. Yeah, but that Diamonds joint was at the Black Cat, and so I that was a difficult, as Camber was mentioning. You know, the thing about Dilla is like, beside him obviously being a dynamic producer, what made him dynamic as an MC was that he also, I enjoyed him as an MC because I pattern myself to believe that when I rap, I try to equate it to like a sax solo or a trumpet solo. So so the same way that sometimes a sax player might start off warming it up and then he gets all into a solo, like that's how I try to approach rapping. And I feel like Dilla had that ability to do that too, you know, where he could be like, you know, blah 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 blah. So he wasn't afraid to take risk in terms of the cadence of his delivery, which
he took liberties, man.
For years in rap, they only told you if you only rapped a certain way that was legitimate, or if you didn't rap. So so those are my definitely my favorite moments of the Dilla tributes for sure.
All right, very dope. You know, Wes, at first, the way you started off, I thought you was going to violate that rule because you started talking about the SOBs thing. You know, I was like, oh. But no,
I think I killed it at SOBs on the
For me, I just think that it's important. I just think that it's important that, you know, when we're talking about Black artists, that we really try to keep the full history of certain things. So then that way folks can really understand that when people say like DC Loves Dilla is dope, that's not just, they're not saying it because they're the only ones who tried it or it was because of a certain caliber, any of that. I was just piggybacking because I know my Dukes know, like, because I seen the joints before DC Dilla too, and I'm like Camber will tell you, I did a record that was a tribute to Dilla.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was called "Welcome to the DC," and I had from Stacey Epps to Camber to I got a song that Kev Brown,
Lab Tech 1, I thought too.
Lab Tech 1, Kev
Priest
Brown
was on there,
Priest the Nomad, Raheem Devon. So I think it's important that people really know the full, you know, history, that it has been tried and many have failed. And DC Loves Dilla is the one that has stood the, you know, test of time. But I think it also is because there's a certain, they made sure that the people who actually who were organizing and doing it weren't just people who were like buddies of his, but actual fans. You know what I mean? Like actual people who love the history and the craft of what he did, you know?
Yeah, appreciate
Let
that
the church
insight.
say amen.
Definitely. Amen. Appreciate that. So getting on to some more things. We're gonna have some folks share an experience when things just didn't go right for you on a night of the performance. We can't just talk about all the good stuff. Let's talk about some of the challenges. Up first, my man Slim Cat.
I think there was a time where I think we were at the Fillmore, and my part was coming up. I was programming it. Well, I was actually tapping the drums out live for Big Booty Express, and in my mind, I was just like, I cannot mess this up at all. I can't do it, you know. And so I'm looking at Aaron. Aaron Harding he was the keyboard player for that Fillmore show, and Aaron's looking at me, laughing at me like, "Look, man, I got you. Just don't worry about it. I got you." And my hand slipped the MPC, and Aaron was just like on the one, boom, caught it back. That was about it. But I don't recall anything kind of going wrong. I think if it was a mistake, it was actually a perfect mistake. Like, you know, it was kind of just fell in.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I never really remembered any times where we just kind of like things just went left for the bad, you know.
All right, cool. Aaron, I kind of want to hear about this. The horn player mistakes. Let's talk about those.
Well, I had one, and I'm trying to remember which tune, and I think it might have been Gobstoppers. Or I don't know if it was that one or, but it's a lot of notes in the part, and
always, you mean always.
And the problem wasn't so much the part itself, but I think the entrance.
Yep.
And it's like I never really heard the entrance right, and so I kind of faked through it. And then, after playing it, I just kind of looked over at John Lane, and John Lane's kind of like,
really?
Yeah.
Really, nigga? Really, nigga? That's what you went with?
I'm like,
really,
sorry, damn.
Wait, which song was this?
I can't remember if it was Gobstoppers, because I think what happened is that flute part, the flute wasn't there.
The flute part? No, the flute was not there. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Right?
Waiting.
And so now I had to play that
can of
part.
worms.
I'm sitting here waiting for my call.
Oh, that's after police.
Oh, the police.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Police.
That's from the beginning of that.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
By the way, my Dukes, I gotta tell you, Trey will never let me live this down. He's mad that I didn't include him because I said JDilla didn't really produce a whole lot of stuff with flutes except after police. So he learned it. He just learned it like yesterday.
And posted it on YouTube. He posted it on Facebook.
He posted on Facebook
It's on
today.
Twitter, yeah. It's on
That's cool. That's cool.
Nice.
So he's ready whenever we do it again.
Never too late.
And
Call my phone. Call my phone.
John remembers this one too, because at the Howard, I told him, I said, hey man, I got a new GoPro, so I'm gonna hook you up. I have a drum cam for you.
Oh yeah.
So I set this thing up, and I started to, I went to start recording, and it kept stopping. It would start and stop recording. It would stop and start and stop recording. And I never got it to work. And you could see me hiding behind John, pulling it down, trying to fix it, I'm going back and forth when I'm not playing.
Right.
Working on this GoPro that's not working. And I realized what happened, it's a new GoPro, and the SD card wasn't like an HD. I needed like a better HD card, like a SIM card, like for HD card, and I just didn't have the right one. So I figured that out and got rid of that and bought new cards. So
but you should have seen my face when I'm sitting there playing, and this dude, I'm like, what?
I was like, why is he in my
I'm not gonna show another dude standing behind me.
I'm trying to fix it.
And I was mad because I'm like, I'm gonna get this damn thing to work, and
I'm like, shouldn't you be playing trumpet? Fixing the GoPro.
I think the cool thing about it too is like I think Aaron said it yesterday. Since it was most like a family situation, like we've all been on stage with each other for years. So when somebody did happen to miss a note or miss a cue or something like that, you just get that look like, I know you missed it, but it's like you can come back to it. It's not a big deal, and we're all together. So it's like it doesn't really. I think it's the notion that, It's the notion that like if you don't make a big deal out of it, the audience won't make a big deal out of it.
They don't know,
and they don't know. Like it's a part of the show. Like, and I think that shows to the professionalism of everybody that was involved from top to bottom on this production.
That this question could be directed towards Neela, who's not here right now. She'll be in on the next segment. But someone actually commented. By the way, we should let everybody know if you have a question, go ahead and put that in the comments, and we'll try to answer it for you. But someone looks like Groove Diva said in 2013, Bilal, after we did a song, chewed Neela out. You remember that, Neela?
No, it's terrible, okay? That was like the worst day of my life.
But you know what? It's on video. It's on video. I think they'll show the clip break. But you see Neela over on the right hand side. She's just kind of like standing there, not really doing anything. And Bilal took it personally.
What are you doing?
And
he did not come to rehearsal. No, he didn't come to rehearsal. That's why I didn't know.
Well, but in his defense, he wasn't booked. He wasn't booked until the day of. He came literally at the 11th hour. But Neela absolutely killed the next song that we did, which was "F the Police." and everybody saw that. So
I'm glad that you guys remember that. I didn't even remember what happened after that. I was so worse.
I remember him chewing you out. Yes.
Oh
and that's why nobody noticed Aaron's missed entrance because Neela stole the show. There you go.
Thank you, Neela. Thank you very much.
You know what's funny too? Neela wasn't the only guitar player not playing. Like Brock wasn't playing either.
Brock was running the sampler.
Brock was standing.
Yeah. He was doing the McNasty Filth sample.
Like, man, why you got 14 guitars on stage? Nobody's playing.
we just be prepared. We are prepared. That's what you need to know.
All right.
Let's move on. My bad.
All right. So another question for my Dukes. How meticulous was Dilla when he was preparing for his performances?
That guy, he never had to prepare. Just like he never ever had to study. He was scientifically precise on everything. And so there were no mistakes in his music. There were no mistakes in what he would do. Like I think you guys already know that he purposely fell behind or went ahead. He was used to singing, even in choirs, and also as a young man growing up in choirs and things. And he always was mindful of accompanying an artist and not overpowering the artist, because he had heard complaints from my group about that, because we sang contemporary gospel for many years, and that was a problem when you have a guest band behind you or something. But there he was meticulous. He had OCD, period, in life, and everything had to be, I was his housekeeper and his shopper, during the time that, he lived alone, and everything had to be organized precisely, like Cokes on Coke shelf in the line, all had to have the same letter facing. If you open the refrigerator, all had to have a C facing it. Nobody could have a C and then an O behind that facing. Something was really wrong. And the vegetable bin and the fruits, red apples couldn't touch a green apple, and grapes had to be on their own side. And everything had to be organized, and it could not be a crumb anywhere. And he would white glove after the Mary maid leave. He white gloved the house even after the Mary maids. And it was all, there was no children in the house, and he didn't touch anything. And he dust like ridiculously. I think if you've been in the studio with him, I know, Rep, you've seen him, but it was never a half hour that passed that he wasn't dusting his equipment or something. Everything had to be like that. And he ironed his own clothes from the time he was 14. So it was like a early on thing. And I could iron. I'm old school. I could iron. I come from the ringer washer days and ironing with a real iron. But his clothes had to stand up alone. Creases had to stand up alone. Seriously, everything, everything ironed, everything folded. So once I got a knack for it and wanted to do something, I would iron his undershirts or boxers or something, because it had to be precise. Everything had to. And then he never wore the same pair of socks twice. Once he take them out, that's it. He caught me taking the bag of them out. Supposed to be taking the garbage, and I realized it was a bag full of new socks, and I was taking it back with Illa J so I could get her ready for high school. I'm like, okay, I wash every day, or every other day, and Illa J's in high school and playing basketball. I could use these socks. And he caught me going out the door. Where you going with that lady? And like he said, the garbage is over there. And I was on my way out to my truck, that he bought me. I'm like, okay, gotta take it. I was sick because I only got a garbage bag full,
That shows you that he knew his music was perfect. That shows you right there that he knew his music was perfect. Like you're not gonna tell him.
Exactly. There were times that he took something and I thought he was finished, and he said, put this on a certain shelf, certain place. Like Grab said, he knew where everything was. You could name an artist. He knew where their work was. He knew which record. He might have 10 albums by them. He knew how many albums down it was to that particular record you asked about. So he would tell me, go to the M's, look for this here, go down how many. And he said, okay, do you see this name? And I said, yes. And that was when he was in a wheelchair. And he said, okay, go down 3. And I go down 3 and I pull out. He said, and he would describe the cover. And so that's how I knew it was the right one, because he would describe the cover. And I'm like, I'm having a hard time looking at it, but he's like, okay, bring it. And, and that's how he was. So, but talking about that organizing records, my sister, my niece, and myself, we worked 8-hour shifts every day for organizing a storage locker. So it was no joke. He paid us well, but it was like we were sweating bullets. Wow. Because he came and checked it out, and it was a whole shelf that we had done. We bought shelves from like a record store that had closed, and so you know how big it was, and one of the shelves had to be taken down and completely redone. He just looked at it. He said, "Oh no," he said, "You got these over here." He said, "That's special." Yo. But he didn't tell us that before we organized. Right. So we had to take it all down.
Oh, Lord.
And only certain artists had to go on that shelf. And I think they were mostly artists from overseas that he had bought records for, but he knew who they were and would tell us how to organize it, certain names, certain shelves. I guess he had like a tier system, for the artists.
Was there ever a time, Mrs. Yancey, where you were like, does this boy know that I'm his mother?
Yes. And you know what? Like he told me, he had to suffer the consequences because I was a disciplinarian in the home. Okay. And when it came to studio time and things he had to do, I said, well, you missed your lab today or whatever. He said, well, I got to go to Amps. I promised him I'd do a session for him. I said, well, you got lab week at aeronautics school. He said, well, I got to do my music, so I just have to suffer the consequences. So he was telling me that if I want to just get that strap or something and get it, because he was going to do
wow.
So I'm like, and so what could I say? Yeah, he meant that, and when I spanked the hands of my children, I would spank them on the hand. Well, not hit them on the hand or something, but I hit them with something. And he said, and but he never, ever, ever from a little child on would cry. He would never shed a tear. I never got that. Because I don't care if I had beat him 50 times in the hand, he was going to look at me in my face and like, whatever.
I'm going to still do this music.
Right. He would not flinch.
Are you done,
He would
Mom?
not flinch. He would not do anything. Just let me go at it. And
that's all you got, Mom? That's all you got?
He was a perfect child other than that moment. So I couldn't front.
Is that why he made one for Ghost? Is that why? Did he take all those tears?
No, but he never got beat. He never got beat. But I know that song. I love that song. Because I thought about it a few times. Whooping him with a strap.
Did he make that song for me?
I like that.
He used to whip me with a strap.
Yeah, when I was bad. I was bad. But he was never bad, so I can't even front.
That's dope.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so that was a amazing story. It was good to listen. Some of it was even encouraging for some of my own little quirks. I think I'm crazy, so thank you for sharing that with us. Neela, can you tell us the most difficult song to learn and perform out of the songs that you had to do for the DC Loves Dilla?
I don't remember the names of a lot of the songs because it's been a while. I mean, it's been like 5 years. But it went like, it's the one that was like, it was like,
that's the serious jump.
There was one of those, that's serious.
Oh, that's the one that Dennis. That's the one that Dennis said last night. Yeah,
yes,
he said.
That was so hard.
Which one was that?
Yeah, well, you can blame Dilla for that.
You can blame Dilla.
Yeah. And I should also mention that Dilla sampled, when he sampled that, he slowed it down.
Oh, really?
He slowed it way down. The original is way faster.
Who was that? That's Stereo Lab or something. Is that what is that?
Nah, it's a unheard of group. I can't remember the name, but
I can tell you right now that I don't feel better about that since you said he slowed.
Wait, who is it? Who is it? Zach?
I don't know if I want to reveal it. I'm one of them cats. I don't like to,
Oh yeah, let's not reveal any Dilla secrets.
We just talked about this. Snitches.
Yeah.
No snitching.
Let's not. We are not who sampled.
We're live on the air right now. There will be
no
snitching.
whosampled.com.
No snitching.
Oh,
And
Lord.
speaking of being live on the air, our producer is beating me upside the head through messages. We need, hey, Jay, I didn't. Come on now. We need to take a break. We need to take a break. We got to pay our bills. So the next break will be some more video footage I think you'll enjoy, and we'll be back with our next segment.
All right.
Thank y'all so much.
Hey, man, y'all look beautiful, man. Goddamn, it's packed in here.
Hands in the sky one time, y'all.
Yo, it's right little in a place to be. We can't put on sitting on PJD. Don't let me see you touch the sky. Let me see you wave your hands up.
JDilla, taste the paper, blazing up in this bitch. We raise the stakes up a little bit and shut shit down. Told you the close shit is over. Put your hands up, that's what you need to do. Plus niggas got game like a PS2. It's cavalry off and here about to set it. Things look short, you here about to let it go.
Back and forth like a big old ass. I'm a macro coach, that's a big old ass. Got me up in this mother. I am in this motherfucker.
It's Taser, LLA, the man, the myth, the plan is to get the grants. It's all in it when I get that. It's that clouded. Niggas thinking they hot, but it's not this. It's stay hard, looking for holes. It's ones that's looking at Harlem, looking for those. So they can shake their ass for us. Told y'all and Big Nasty trust.
Yo, we got vision, we the bloods. We go with the fall guy, y'all leaders nuts. Cause players is out here doing the thing. I told y'all what Big Nasty brain is.
It's ghetto, we all take the thriller. Bet your ass that it's not the cave. We real ghetto with the filth. Flawn, filth. Hitting them hard with the bars that I'm spitting.
It's Crazy Jake, you know what it is. Rocking over track, my nigga jail is. Cause we are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
It's great, thank the Lord. Chase the paper, blazing up in this bitch. We'll raise up the stakes.
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
It's great, thank you, JD. Collabing with Mad Lib.
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
And we get dirty like we bread and crispy. Get away your pride, we get busy with the plan. Plan is bad, living, JDilla, Frank, and I'm at it again. And we got no chickens, plus the flows is sick. And known for the flipping, O's blow the dick when I hop. Dollars top, dollars hop. Hopping in and out of 2,000 plus candies and places in the end zone. Bringing that booming system cheap. Volume beats, tall and deep. Crawling, we ballin'. Told y'all before not to play me out the game. Getting rockin' shades, making niggas there. This, beating, taking the game like this. See, nigga,
What niggas don't take to the back, cause we all up in here, don't know how to react.
yo, we are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker.
All ladies, go straight to the front, cause we real playing with
We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker. Everybody to say this shit once now. We are in this motherfucker. We are in this motherfucker. One more.
All right, so we're back. We're back. So let's get back into our questions. We want to make the most out of our time. So we're gonna jump in, and I got another question for my Dukes. So please describe a moment when you randomly heard a song that Dilla sampled. Like you heard it after you heard the sample.
After I heard the sample.
Then you heard the song and you go, oh, that's the, that kind of thing.
Jeez, I really, you know what? I really can't say.
She'd be like, I put him on all that music. So
Right, exactly. Right.
I think, you know what? I think I can't really remember the name of the song, but it was he had an intro in a track, and it was not "Fuck the Police," but it was another song that was like hard driving, and it used sort of like a chamber music intro to it. I can't think of what it was.
Chamber music.
Because I remember when I heard it, I got excited because it was like my kind of music at that time, and I'm like, wow, he's gonna use something I like, classical music. And I got up and I went to the top of the stairs, and I remember sitting at the kitchen table because I had the daycare upstairs at the time, and I went to the top of the stairs, and by the time I got to the ledge, he knew I was coming. He might have done it on purpose, and saw me looking down, and he asked me, he said, "Where you going, lady?" And so I had to back up because I was not loud down there while he was working on the stereo. I was not allowed to hear because, out of respect, he didn't want me to hear the language, even though he got a lot of it from my mom. He didn't want to hear.
So since you mentioned that, was there ever a time where you tried to influence him? Like, you should use this record, you should use that record?
No, I knew better.
Okay.
Even though I had,
I respect that so much.
I knew better. There was a thing that I respected him as an artist, and because I was employed by him, I was like his second Detroit manager. When he was on tour with Tim, who was his manager, then I would take care of things at home, and when artists call or wanted to book or come to the house to perform, or like at the end of the year when everybody wanted to come, that was my job to handle that. So I knew to stay in my place and treat him as I would anybody else that I was working for. I appreciated that. However, as his mom, if he asked me a question or asked me to do something, I was pleased to help, and he honored me in that respect. So it was like I could keep it at a medium, I knew better. Even when he was sick and doctors told me, well, you need to tell your son this, that, or the other. I'm like, no, that's my son. He's a man, and I respect that, and I know where to step off at. And they thought I was crazy, and that was when he was sick, but I had to treat him as he was a man. I would treat him like I would any man. You don't tell a man what to do when they made up their mind what they want to do. You respect that man, So, and that's how it was, and we got along great.
Wow.
One of the greatest things that I remember in rehearsal was when Slum Village came. This is when Illa J was in the group, and I don't remember what song they were rehearsing, but we were rehearsing a song, and Illa J had a verse, and we had to do it over again. And Ma Dukes was there. Ma Dukes was sitting in a chair in the back of the room in the corner. And T3 was like, all right, well, let's do it again. And, you know, I'm fixing something over here, talking to the horns. And while that's happening, Ma Dukes gets up very quietly, nonchalantly, walks up to Illa J, and she looked like a head coach talking to the quarterback. She proceeded to tell Illa J, listen, you have to do it like this. Because when Dilla did it, he did it like this. You have to, so, you know, and Illa J's just like, okay. Just seeing Ma Dukes like taking the reins of like a manager, like a real manager, and like facilitating information, saying if you're gonna do this song, you got to do it the way Dilla did it, and that made me sweat bullets because I was like, am I arranging these songs the right way? Like, Ma Dukes gonna come up to me and say, when you play the drums, you can't play it. And you need to have a little bit more swing. I was just waiting for her to come up to me and correct me.
Your playbook. Hey, come on, man.
Exactly. So that was like, that just goes to show you, man, you cannot mess with the Yancey family. Like they were so meticulous about the craft, and that just made me have the respect of it so much more. And it made it. That's for me. That's what made the concerts so much better for me, because I'm like, I know all of these artists in this panel and last night and everyone who performed and in the band, they're capable of taking the information that I'm giving them and they're able to do exactly what it is that can confirm how big Dilla was. So that was just a little side note.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But you know, I didn't even remember doing it, but I would never have done it had he been in control of what he possessed.
Sure.
All my children had to start at 2-3 years old singing, and he was no exception. He came along late. He was a kid brother. Everybody with Dilla was 13 when he came along, you know, when he was birthed. But he still had to go by the same family rules, and everybody, by the time they were 4, even my granddaughter now, when she was 2, she can sing Manhattan Transfer, and she had a partner could sing any part. But that's how they were taught, and taught to sing a cappella here, so they can hear themselves and be able to do more than one part. And that was just how we enjoyed each other. But that was what we did. So you can't sing no bad note up in here. And when we went to the studio to record, we always knew that we only would do one take. We go to United Sound. We always went to the best studios, but you go with the expectation that if necessary, you would have to cut twice, but 90% of the time it's one take and everybody's done, because you don't go unprepared. And that was with any group. We train them. I hated the part that if they didn't do their part, I had to sing their part too, because I felt like put upon, because I wasn't getting paid, because I still had to cook dinner and everything else. Still had to do everybody else's something. And when somebody didn't do something, everybody looked at me. So that meant I had to do their part. And I felt unfair. But when it came to time to go to the studio, you know, I understood that was what made it work. Because if I assist and we get it done faster, you're ready on the first take. Everybody, you know, that person in charge knows that you know what you're supposed to do. Whether you read music or not, you listen and know what you're supposed to be doing. Because if one person mess up, everybody else can't come in right. No guarantee, you know. So meticulous.
That's all I gotta say.
I didn't think it was that. I just thought that everybody knows that 1, 2, 3, you on. Hey, make it happen. That's it.
For sure. So.
All right, thank you, Ma Dukes. We got an audience question for Slim Cat. Slim Cat has a fan base out here that wants to know, did the different venues and/or new technology offer new capabilities and creative ways to mix the show?
It's funny. During the DC Dilla shows, I didn't really get a chance to talk with any of the tech people, but from what I remember, the recordings that we got back, I think John Lane can answer that, but the recordings we got back, I know one of the very good sounding recordings was from the Black Cat. That was
Okay.
That was the best show.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the best mix shows. That was just the right room. It wasn't too big, it wasn't too small. And I think we the guys working there. Actually, I think no, we hired Frank Marchand, who's they call him the Punisher. He's out of Maryland. He's an incredible. I think he mixed like Dave Matthews Band or something like that. Won a Grammy, but he mixed that show. So yeah, the Black Cat. I'll tell you what the worst recorded or the worst show was.
Oh boy,
was the Fillmore.
Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
Fillmore.
Yes, it was the Fillmore because Robert Glasper. I remember Robert Glasper did not get a chance to sound check because the monitor guy was someone who didn't know anything about monitors, and so everybody's monitor wasn't working. And we spent 2 hours trying to fix the monitors, and then the head guy came up and was like, "Yo, we got to open doors." And Robert Glasper got up and said, "We're going to hold doors." And he's like, "No, we're not going to hold doors. We're going to open doors." He's like, "No, we're going to hold doors because the sound sucks." He goes, "Do you know who I am? Do you know that there's people here to see me tonight?" I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right. And they held the doors. All that to say, they held the doors. So
the Fillmore show was hard. Period, man. It was a hard night.
It was a long night. It was a long night.
6-hour show, 20-hour sound check.
Did I erase that one? I don't remember.
6 hours.
But Graf said he don't remember.
I barely remember hosting that.
That was the show. That was the show. Dub brought up Tobias.
Yeah.
Tobias. We also had Terrence Cunningham, who did Bilal's joint. Guilty Simpson was on that show. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that show because they ain't had no backline.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
No backline. I was like, what? This is the
we never went. Yeah, we never went back, so it didn't matter.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trey.
Hey, so Grab, the same question that I just asked my Dukes a little bit ago. Can you tell us a time that you randomly heard a Dilla song sampled?
Man.
Well, similar question. But this one is when you heard a Dilla song sampled by someone else.
Heard a Dilla song sampled by someone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it a little bit. Have you heard one sampled by someone else?
So an actual track that he made that they sampled to do something else with?
Right.
Or are you just saying the same sample that he used?
Well, did they?
I think the question is. I think the question is. Was there ever a time you heard a song that Dilla sampled? Like you was randomly like in a grocery store and they had some throwback music on you.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that's Dilla took that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was in Marshall's one time and heard something. I was probably right in the midst of grabbing a nice polo or something and was like,
or a candle.
$2 Washington jersey.
Polo or candle.
Like Robert Griffin III jersey for $2.
Yeah. Oh, here you go.
Hearing anytime I hear Bobby Caldwell, you know what I mean? Open your eyes, you know what I mean? Anytime you hear that.
Yeah. Okay. That's real.
But I was in Marshall's one time and I forgot what I heard, but I did hear something. I was like, yo. I said, that's the greatest thing, man. Yeah, I heard it. I heard the hit. Yeah.
That's the greatest feeling in the world for like DJs and producers is like when you just randomly come upon a sample. I just posted on my Instagram the first time I heard the Sleeping Like a Dog sample because that was the most like that original sample was the song that everyone could not find. Even Questlove couldn't find that joint. Like, and he falsely said, I think he said it was like Paul Revere and the Raiders, and everybody went out and bought Paul Revere and the Raiders. The stock for Paul Revere and the Raiders went up for like a week, and then everybody went on YouTube and was like, "Nah, that's not it. Is that it?" Like, "Nah, it's not it." And then finally somebody found it. It was a bar band from Kentucky.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was so random. I got it right here. I'm not gonna show y'all, but it's such a great feeling, man.
Dope.
Love Ballads. You know, he could be somewhere in here. Love Ballads by
LTD. Yep.
You know, you hear it. You hear it the way he did it. You know,
I can't not hear the Ozzy Brothers now and not hear the sample. You know that in the dark, and it's like, whoa, he flipped the shit out of.
Yeah. Yeah. Genius. Sorry, go ahead, Trey.
All right, so hey, Ma Dukes, can you talk about when you about convincing Music Soul Child to do DC Love Dilla?
Well, I tell you, that wasn't hard. You know, he was. I loved him the first time I went to see him. He was performing at the Opera House in Detroit, and I was just like a kid at Christmas time, you know, just like all stars and just like so excited. I never seen such a packed house and people going so crazy with this one man show as a vocalist like that in Detroit. Because Detroit is kind of like a hard place to pack.
Yeah.
You got people that Detroiters won't spend money to go to a show or do anything unless they're performing. They don't support. I must say this, and it's true, and I don't care who's listening from Detroit. They don't support each other as artists like they should. And but you'll get the support outside of there, and that's only that's just like how it is. Okay, I've complained about it to the artists, so they know. It's not the first time I've said it, but I don't know. It's something. It's something about that makes that difference.
I'm pretty sure you don't have any problems convincing any artist to do anything because of who you are.
I will say that, but I'll tell you what. And this is gonna be just make a note, guys. If someone asks you or ask me or have been asked to participate in the Dilla event and they're a no-show, or they insist that how much they love Dilla but they're not willing to work with other people to make it happen, I don't ask twice.
Ooh.
That's
Jeebus.
That's real though. That's real.
Hey,
that's real.
And it doesn't have to come from me. If I get wind and people call me, I'm in touch with everybody all year round. Grab can say that because I'll text him and send him I hit him on a message in a heartbeat. You know, I keep in touch. If you reach me, I'm gonna hit you back.
No doubt.
But if I get wind that this is how it is, so it's all good. It'll be snowing in the desert. Before I call you.
Snow in hell.
Because the light shine from above and the clouds roll back and told me, hey, get us due the call. Because I'm not doing it, you know. It's about not putting yourself above other people. And it's about being real about what you say.
Yeah.
It's about loving the art and just respecting what he did, man.
It's about loving the art and respecting the art and respecting oneself. Yeah. You never know when that time's gonna come around that you need somebody, and we have to support one another. It's like not a big percentage of us here in the United States. Well, I'm still a part of the United States, okay? And not a great percentage, and so you know we have to support one another. That's how we become great and more. It's by holding each other up and making the world realize that they cannot survive or do great things without us.
All right.
Kings and queens own and rule this world, and that's what it's going to come back to.
All right. So, Mr. Timekeeper John, I think we need to take another break. What'd you say?
That's a perfect way to.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. That's perfect.
All right. So we're going to do another break. I think you guys are conditioned by now to know that you're going to get some more music during the break, and we'll be right back.
We dedicate it to these people out here, bang. Let us do it.
Don't get mad, cause we doing shit you just run it up. Hey, 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 hey. What you say? Get this money. If they say, what you gonna do today? Just say, hey, I wanna get paid. Hey, hey, fuck, hey, 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 what you do? Oh man, you need to get back like the really babe. You need to step up like the whole place. Oh man, what you know about the great face? We got the way on getting money like the weekdays. The dog race party in the dark days. You sitting with the dough, getting like a hard ass. More, and baby fly like a hard ass. Money make the free gold raw ass. Hey, radio for the ass like raw days. Every day's a holiday for niggas stay paid. Celebrate the holidays with the money. Any holiday for niggas you can stay away. Hey, 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 hey. What y'all say? If they say, what you gonna do today? Just say, hell, hey, 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 what feel they say? Somebody get that radio on the loud. Say what? For the city road back. I'm just here in my door, keeping it real, dog. Showing you how to walk for. I never thought that we would make it up. This song, we think I'm really gonna Cadillac. Walk star, Detroit or the city finding the shit up. City tour, but they do me out. City tour, but they do me out. When I was a young boy, telling in my daddy's rap. All I gave was a rhyme. What? Boy, I'm thinking I was nothing. But a glass, another thing, another bar, another spot. All I wanna do is get paid. Roll down. Come on. Hey, 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 hey. What you say? Get this money. Then they say, what you gonna do today? Just say, yeah, I wanna get paid. What you say? Get this money. Yeah. What you gonna do today? Just say, yeah, I wanna get paid.
So tell me if you want something, you just come on, baby. Tell me if you want something, you just come on, baby. Tell me if you want something, you just come on, baby. Tell me if you want something, you quite confident. You get so good to probably market it. What's up with 7 digits? Can I market it? I'm trying to get rich, your prerogative. You be the one that gets what I had in. Ain't more greater than a virgin. Girl, you know this scandalous. I'm trying to get a one-on-one monogamous. Let's look at what I can handle this. What I'm thinking about, can you handle this? I take you back into my room with touch. Touching the zone, I surprise it up. But that's enough, I'm really trying to tell what's up. What's up? What's up with you? Tell me, can we chill or what? What's up? What's up? Tell me, can we chill or what? What's up? What's up? Tell me if we chill or what? Tell me if you want something you can trust. Come on, baby. Tell me if you want something you can trust. Come on, baby. Tell me if my ladies you can trust. Tell the ladies in the place. Come on, baby, and say, time. What's up with that? It's cowboy time? Oh shit. Detroit ain't never got this one. That Q-tip shit. Whole time. This is the last time I did it. I'm out now. This is the last time I did it. Q-tip part, y'all. Q-tip. Rather than make this beat for the turn, I'ma leave it in the hands of the slum. I'm out of you, man. Shit flip. Yes, fine. It's a mission for real. I know this shit. Motherfucker shit. Let's get your breathing. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight.
All right, so we're back from the break.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So back from our last segment.
That
Any
was
quick thoughts
amazing.
on that?
Woo.
All right.
That's beautiful.
No, but I
quick now.
Yeah, rest in peace, Dilla and Batin. There's a great story about how Dilla made the intro to Fantastic Volume 2 that Am Fiddler tells. So if no one is familiar, go listen to the first song, the intro to Fantastic Volume 2. And everyone thought that he played keys on that. But Am Fiddler says he took one lead synth sound and he just played it using the pads on the MPC, and then he went back and he played a different harmony, and then he went back and played like the fifth, and then the ninth, and then the seventh, and that's how he made that intro. Like, it just baffles my mind, yo. Like,
you could have grabbed a keyboard to do that, but nah.
He could have got a keyboard player to do it, but he did it on the MPC. Like one note at a time, not one note, but just like one melodic line after a time at a time. Like that's genius mentality right there. To just say to yourself, "Nah, I'm gonna do it like this."
Which
Anyway.
one? Which Fantastic?
The Volume 2.
Oh, this I call that the Snoop intro. I wish I would have heard Snoop. That'd be sick, yo.
Yeah,
that'd be sick. I love that beat.
Amazing.
Wow, he did that with that?
With the MP3000, man.
Wow. Sick.
All right. So, quick question for Neela. What did you learn? Give us something. Anything you learned from the DC Loves Dilla experience?
I definitely learned about a lot of new music because I wasn't really familiar with Dilla before I started performing in the show. So it was always a learning experience, and the songs are always like challenging. Like I definitely learned a lot of like musicianship during the rehearsals. Yeah.
You definitely knew how to play Running.
Patience.
What? Oh yeah, Running. Guys, I got it. I got it.
Oh look!
I know.
She's ready to play it.
Oh, here goes. Oh wait, no, maybe not.
All right, okay. It's been 5 years. We'll give you that.
It's like rehearsal again.
Hey, baby girl, what you doing with that guitar, huh? You got that guitar in your hand. What you gonna do with it, huh?
It was close. I know it's been 5 years.
So, with that being said, Wes, why don't you
Yo.
give us something that you learned from your experience with DC Loves Dilla?
Man, y'all might not like this, but I learned that some people don't belong on stage together.
I'm scared to ask for any details. I'm really scared.
I mean, what I mean by that,
fired.
What I mean by that, I remember from doing it multiple times, and also from me maybe working with John outside of Dilla. You know what I'm saying? Like they might have been every blue moon, maybe. You know, he would tell me how maybe there'd be some artists who would be pressing him out. You know, there's some artists,
right?
Some artists, and hey, Courtney, just for your viewing, that was a reference to a conversation that we had earlier in the.
Yeah. Sure. Some people aren't familiar with what.
Yeah,
that's an inside joke.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was impersonating somebody at the actual Dilla event, but anyway, but John would share with me how he was sometimes there'd be artists that be randomly pressing them out, hey, well, how come I'm never on it, or how never? And a lot of times, I mean, he may not say this because he can't, but a lot of times those people would end up being the worst performers, in my opinion. They would either not like they would either like completely straight up like not remember their stuff or just straight up butcher it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that unfortunately sometimes when it comes to tributes, quote unquote, people have a tendency to forget that we still professionals and when you're paying tribute to somebody who, you know, no offense, my dudes, who sounds pretty OCD like me, you can't just, it's not just about the attention or being on stage or you know what I'm saying, the perception of the prestige, as the magicians would call it. It's not about the prestige for, you know, for definitely the artists that I see on this screen, because a lot of you most of you on this screen are multi-faceted artists. So you guys rap and do stuff. So I think it's obvious, you know, when you can tell the difference between like mediocrity and like even just okay. And I'm just keeping it 100 that the DC Dilla tributes really revealed to me, even some artists that I used to like think were like caliber, it really just kind of revealed why, you know, maybe they're not who they are. And I think when you create, when you set Dilla set a standard. So let's just make that clear. Because if he didn't set a standard, he wouldn't have made the impact, and we wouldn't be having this conversation and all of it. So let's just make that clear. For sure. So it's just important. So it's just important that people, you know, when you're approaching these Dilla tributes or you're paying homage to Dilla, that is coming from an actual true place of service first, before like all that other you know, stuff that comes with the entertainment.
And I think that the people that we have here are the people who made it to this podcast, are the ones who kind of had that attitude.
But John ain't gonna tell you. John ain't gonna tell you. It was a couple folks that totally you never saw again.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We made notes. You know what I mean?
We made notes.
No.
Yep.
And I you know, and I think,
I always keep tabs on a notepad.
And that's probably was Dilla, and that was probably Dilla, you know, indirectly working in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? He had to get involved somehow. Wait a second, John. You think those go there? Oh, wait a second. No.
Do you really think that this dude can do jealousy?
Those don't go there. Those don't go. No. Those don't go on that stage. They go over there at that batch. You don't put them there. My Dukes told you. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Hey, Camber. So, what about you? Something you learned from the experience?
I think it was as being an artist. You know, we all kind of want ourselves in that big spotlight when it turns on. You know, our eyes get bright. What I learned was to be a role player. It was such a huge event for me. If I had to come shoot a free throw, that free throw is just as important as Bilal shooting the big three or J Hill making sure his stuff is right. I learned to sit back and be a fly on the wall and be as prepared as I can, coming in and doing the best job that I can do for the overall performance. It wasn't about me. It was about Dilla. And, you know, I wanted to make sure that everything that I was going to do or whatever they asked me to do, I did to the best of my ability. So, you know, even the piggyback off Dub, it wasn't a Camber night. It wasn't a Dub L night. It was a Dilla night. And it was, how can I go be the best artist I can be? And, you know, if John Lane asked me to cover one of his songs, you know, I'm not a drummer. I'm not going to take on that responsibility. But as a rapper, you know, it's like, I rap. I know how to rap, but, you know, finding these pockets and, you know, learning what it takes, because, you know, we are instruments as well as everybody else in this room. Everything we do, you know, it involves music. So I just wanted to be the best musician possible. And every year I got a little bit better because I just stayed a little bit more patient. So that's what I learned a lot.
The thing that I
Okay, so anyway.
Jay.
Turnover by the Wizards.
Pray for J Hill.
Turnover by the Wizards.
Covers. I mean, you know, we always turn over, but it was so amazing for me to actually see other rappers like learn verses and do like a rapper song, because you just don't get that. You like as far as what I've seen, I've never seen anybody do a Biggie tribute and learn all the Biggie stuff. You know what I'm saying? Learn all the Tupac stuff. You don't do that. You might do something over his tracks, but you don't really learn his like lyrics like word for word. So that's the thing that I loved about it, because I got to see people really nail his shit the best way they could, of course not being him. So it was just amazing for me to just experience that.
Wow.
Dope. All right, so I have an audience question that I want to pose to the group. If production could boom, there it is. So everyone can see the question, but I'll read it anyway. I wonder if community support is a perennial issue. I've heard local musicians say that about DC as well. To all. That's who the question's posed to everybody. Have you seen that in many places? And I don't have to ask anybody for this. You guys aren't very shy in this group, so have at it.
Somebody else take over first. I'm going to answer it, but I don't want to take up all the time. I've been like this. Okay.
Oh,
You're all
your
good.
night,
You all good.
Dilla's mom. What you talking about?
Yeah,
What?
I mean, I'll be short. I'll be short. Community support is definitely very important, especially I should say especially, but in the DC area, that's how live music was birthed in the 70s, when Chuck Brown decided to take his own music, and he would play in DC bars like 5 to 6 nights a week for like 2 years, and it birthed what we now know as go-go music. Yes. You know, he made his voice heard, and it was the people who came out to see him. It was that support. Now, I will say that was probably because of the fact that there was no social media back then and not a whole lot of technology. However, when you go to see a go-go show today, it's packed, absolutely packed. So I think it is essentially important, and that's part of the reason why I started DC Loves Dilla, was not only because I wanted people to understand why we love Dilla so much and to get his name out there, but it was also so that everyone could support the local artists that I had performing as well, because they were very, very special in inspiring other musicians in the area to be who they are. So definitely think that community support is extremely important in all facets of any local circuit.
And if that's not going to work, you at least need to try a united front. And I think that most cities like DC and Detroit, they often, because they're fighting for the perception of what New York has or LA has or the South has, there's this lack of ability to really understand that. Like Philly, if you ask anybody from Philly, they'll be the first ones to tell you, like, oh, them niggas, they all be fighting each other and they don't get along. But on the outside, you would think, if you look at the Philly movement in terms of like when they was real, when that hardcore, when it was everybody, the Roots, Jazzy Fat Nasties, Jaguar, right? Everybody, they were just all just coming. You would think like, oh wow, Philadelphia is like indestructible, like they're so united. I think that DC and also, for example, like a place like Detroit, because we are originators when it comes to our sounds of music, you know, them being known as the capital of electronic music, and DC being a capital of go-go music, because we have never really gotten that superficial validation or stamp. Like, if you want to be an artist, go to DC. If you want to be an artist, go to Detroit. If you want to be an artist, go to Texas. You never get that. So I think what happens is it becomes this internal desire to compete against each other, because they start feeling like, well, since we're not being recognized as a community or as a city, it must be something that I got to do. I got to be the one to like do it, or maybe that. You know, and so it tends to happen that way. And I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just kind of the shrapnel of the music industry being primarily focused in other, parts of the
Yeah, yo. So Slim, can you weigh in on that? What you think, man?
On the question, there was
Yeah, just like on community support.
Community support. It's I think it's. I mean, I guess it's how one person perceives it. It's like you know, obviously we all have some tie to each other because we're here in all of these squares right now. You know, we other than DC Loves Dilla, we've actually done music together. So I consider everything.
True.
I consider all of y'all community. You know what I mean?
True
but
that.
I feel like it's all in. It's all in how honest you are with yourself and how honest you are with others at the same time. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's my answer to that. It's just all in how you view it, pretty much.
For sure.
Dope.
What he said.
What you say there, Grab?
What he said.
I'll weigh in now, but I must say that in fact DC does possess that and that's where it's at for artists. They don't admit it, but even in Detroit, I knew, and I wasn't a traveling artist, but I knew that the place to go would be DC. What I witnessed when I was living in DC, and even before I moved there, was that you have community within your artists, and the support that came together for the Dilla events shows that there was at least a percentage of unity within those groups that performed, and everybody wanted to see everybody do well. Nobody was trying to keep somebody, and the love and the applause and the happiness, it exuded the building, you know, and that doesn't happen everywhere. You can be in a Fillmore, Detroit, and it could be cold, and you wonder what's going on, but that wouldn't happen in DC. Now, DC, of course, there were things that maybe should have went different at the Fillmore. However, on 95% of the events were just off the effing chain.
Wow.
And I was there, so I know. And let me tell you something. You might not know it, but I am such a critical person about everything with music. And I didn't know it. I wouldn't accept it until Tony kind of let me see myself. You know, I'm critical about everything. You know, I don't care who it is, what it is. And the fact that Go-Go should have put you guys on a map is period. Everybody needs funk, and that is the embodiment of that and everything that comes with it. Now, I know that Dilla loved DC and all about it. I know from his manager, Tim Maynard, about hearing about what DC was about and what Slum, you know, they would look forward to coming to DC for different things. I know, listening to artists and groups, even before Dilla's, you know, before I got involved with Dilla's stuff, that was a place. And to be ready when you go there, because I've seen artists come from New York and other places and been there myself, and they got chewed up and spit out.
Wow.
And, you know, but nobody in DC complained. But I was like, oh, you know, to myself. And people hold up New York and praise about all the artists that come out of there, and it's not always true. It's just that, look, everybody that come from Brooklyn is not on the top tier. So they're just like, for real. And I said it.
Right.
But I hear about that more than anything.
Wow.
You know, and I love New York and I love my artists, but we're talking about some real stuff. And I just want to say that. And it's about musicians, appreciating musicians and knowing that each artist, if they on a real serious note, possess their own. And if they bring it out and they really care about what they're doing, they're not going to waste it, because it's a lot that goes into it. Time, money, effort, mind control, because you have to be able to house all of this creativity. And it's not a plaything. So, DC, hey, what you going to do, DC?
Hey.
All right.
Salute
I
to
want
the
to say thank you
district.
to everybody. Thank you, my Duke. So we're not leaving you. We're gonna close with you. I just want to ask you to tell everybody about the Dilla scholarship. Just
Oh,
put the word
yes.
out there. Yeah.
The JDilla Tech Grant that is the product of the VH1 Save the Music program. And this is through eternity. This is not just a year, this year we're going to do this the next year. This is through eternity. It will always be. And we're going into the third year. Even though it was a pandemic last year, by the middle of the year, they had decided to make it possible that some teachers could get the equipment and have it at the students' homes that they can work virtually with their instructors. But the application, if you go to the JamesD.Yancey.Foundation.org site, it'll tell you about the application and how to do it. And it's very simple. It's not a long drawn out thing. It's not who you are. It's not biased in any manner. Doesn't matter where you are in the United States. And it's ongoing. For the first year and a half, it was just for high schools. But in December, we added junior high schools. So you can also have that program in junior high schools as well. And they supply all the equipment. We just have to have teachers that are willing. That's the main thing, is having a teacher that's willing to sacrifice that hour time for that class per week. So,
all right.
Very simple.
Wow.
You can do it. We have they have people that are in every state that are working. Philly's got a couple of high schools. New York has high schools. New Orleans has 2 high schools and the first middle school as of December. We have one in Detroit because they just got off the ball and finally did it, Central High School. And it doesn't matter. We have one in California as well. So let's just go global and give the children what they need to come out of high school and be able to get a career in music on whatever platform they want to do. You know, the equipment is there. You don't have to worry about it. A lot of times we're held back because we don't have the money or the equipment, and we don't have the teachers. But this can be done. It's a lot of people that are willing to sacrifice that time and help the schools to build a better future for our people. And it's not racially biased by any means. It doesn't matter where you are. Let's just find the individuals like people on this panel that know what they're doing and want to participate and pay it forward for our young people. Let's get
I'm one of them.
grants in high school.
I will definitely be one.
Yes.
I would love to be a part of it. For sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I will definitely just let me know when you're doing it. I'll make sure that they got their ear to the grindstone.
Absolutely.
And move forward in a smooth way.
All right.
Okay.
What a beautiful way to close. Talking about doing things for others. And I definitely want to thank you, my Dukes. It was a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, my Dukes.
Yeah, my Dukes.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you, Thank you, Grap. Thank you,
I
Mila.
I hope that you know
go ahead.
how much I love you, and let's get our heads together and let's give people what they want. You know,
all right.
Absolutely.
We want DC Love Dilla.
Wait,
what?
Hey, look, DC loves my Dukes too.
Huh?
That's right.
No
DC
doubt.
loves
DC
my
Love
Dukes too.
Dilla. We want
Absolutely. DC loves my
I'm a
Dukes.
transplant, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
And
make it
shout-
happen, guys.
All right.
Absolutely.
Shout out, thanks to Camber and Slim Cat for joining us. And
Shout out to
my
everybody in the
Sports
chat.
and Things bros, Dennis,
Aaron
Jay
brought us.
Hill, and John. Oh, and Aaron. Aaron disappeared, but yeah, shout out to Aaron for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for
and
everybody
special
listening.
Special thanks
shout out
to
to
Madia.
Madia Logan.
Yeah, thank you, Madia.
Now,
Yes.
what Madia did, Madia produced a show full of producers talking about one of their favorite
Yo,
That's genius.
There's levels to
That's
that.
like
That's
I just want
genius.
you to think about what
That's
she
genius.
just did.
Yes.
that's an infinite hole right there.
Exactly.
She's telling us what we need to do, and
Black
all of us are
mirror moment.
inputting. No, we need to produce like this. So there's this big conversation. So she's trying to keep
Yes.
together a bunch of people who are all used to running things.
Inception.
And
While
she
we
did
talk
this.
about the
And she
person
did
that
this
we
on
study
2 days.
for running things.
Boss.
She did this on like 2 days notice.
It was 2 days ago.
She's also telling you to shut up because we got to end it. We got to end it.
Yeah, we got to do our plugs, man.
Oh, yes, I got to
we got to do our plugs. So. Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Trey.
Reverend Dennis Turner. Pastor.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Trey, for being our moderator for DC Regular Panel Day 2. Again, I want to thank the panel. I got to do a couple plugs. This is the business side of it. So I also want to thank Unhinged Sports Networks for hosting us. Also, I want to thank StreamYard for this platform. Without this platform, we wouldn't have been able to do this panel. Yeah, so thank you to StreamYard. I also have to thank Fubo TV and Fanatics.com. Now, those are the partnerships that we have at Sports and Things. So if you feeling lucky, if you feel like you got a favorite team, go check out Fanatics.com. Tell them we sent you, you get a discount. Also, Fubo TV, you get a 7-day trial if you tell them we sent you. And Sports and Things as well. We air every Saturday at 12 noon on the Unhinged Sports Network, and we're on everywhere you can find podcasts. So Apple.
We don't just talk about DC sports, so it's not very
we talk about everything.
Yeah.
Also,
it's called Sports and Things for a reason.
Sports and Things for a reason.
Right.
And I also want to thank Facebook and YouTube Live for having sites that we can actually present this panel and have these discussions for people and celebrate the life of James JDilla Yancey. So again, thank you all for coming on.
And also, last thing, very, very special thanks to Tony Smith for getting
Tony Smith. Shout out to my husband, Tony Smith. Thanks, Tony.
You got to shout out. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So on that note, I want to thank you guys again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you go to the website and support us. Support the James Dilla, James Yancey Foundation. Support everything that you can. And without the kids, we don't have a future. So, get out there and support them. And on that note, I'm going to say peace and see you next time.
Thank y'all. Good night. Happy birthday, Dilla, on Sunday.
Happy
and all
birthday.
that.
And bless you all. Blessings upon blessings.
Thank you, my Dukes. Thank you.
Hey, man, y'all look beautiful, man. Goddamn, it's packed in here.
Hands in the sky one time, y'all. Yo, it's right through in a place to be. We can't put it on sitting on PJD. Don't let me see you touch the sky. Let me see you wave your hands up.